Hey fellow game runners, welcome to Quest Givers. Today I'm flying solo without Gareth, and we're going to talk about what to do when your game goes when you have a big raspberry or it explodes, right? What to do when your game explodes.
If you're looking for adventure, grab the modules each month to support the channel and play the campaign with your gaming group. You're sure to get hooked on adventure.
If you value this content, you can go to our website, questgivers.com, and check out our system-neutral modules as well as our value-added content that can help you run games better. So say, you have this finely meticulously crafted story. The players come in like a china in a bull shop and just shatter the whole thing. They miss all the clues. They play stupidly. They just blunder into stuff. And it just ends, maybe it ends a disaster. Maybe they're dead. Maybe you got a TPK in your hands. Now, I personally don't really have this problem because my players are smarter than I am. So I really don't have this kind of problem. But I know a lot of game masters who have had it, and it can be just very disheartening. It's just like, oh man, I had all this cool stuff set up and they just blew it up. They just totally ruined it. I have sympathy for you, but I don't, right? Because that's the nature of the beast. That's the nature of this game. If you want an ending that's perfectly crafted, write a book. If you want quests where they have to do the quest and complete the quest to move on to the next quest, then play a video game, right? RPGs are not that. RPGs are collective storytelling, and it's all about everybody putting into the story, right? It's not about your story. You should be the steward of this game. You should encourage the players to develop this story with you. Not you're telling them a story and they're just sort of, characters in your story. They're the way I look at it is they're the main characters in the novel or the movie, and they're writing the story with you. And they should have a big part of writing that story. So if this happens, if it just explodes, there's several things you can do, right? One is to remember that you are literally God, right? Nothing exists in the world until you and the players make it real. So if they blow up your story and they don't know they blew up your story, did they really blow it up? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm trying to say? It's like if a bear craps in the woods and you don't see it, does it really crap in the woods? Okay. The same kind of idea. If they destroy your story, go with a new story or develop a story from the pieces that they've shattered, they've destroyed your story. Pick up those pieces and start building it. Say they had a TPK. That could be interesting too, because say they all die. Then the party creates a new group, and the new group hear about the heroes who didn't defeat the big bad, and now maybe the big bad rules the world, right? And the players have to fight that big bad, the repercussions of what the other party didn't do. Now, you could also have, this is kind of a cool idea, you could also have players fill in a backstory when they encounter things about their old players that died when this happened. And maybe you finally get that information you were trying to get to the first group to come to light. And then the look on the players' faces when they realize, well, if we would have looked at this stuff or taken a moment and thought about it or whatever, we might not have all ended up dead. So that's a little bit of revenge you can get on the first group, when they played it the first time and they screwed up. So, but it's not about revenge. It's about the shared story, and it's about the player agency. And that's just how the game goes. If they blow it up, you move on from there. And player agency is very important, right? And whether it's bad or good, it's very important, and it should be integral to your game, to holding your game together. Because once you take that away, it's not really a game anymore. It's you telling them a story, and they're just forced to listen to it, right? I'm going to talk about a campaign I've been running, The Hoard of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat. So spoiler alert, so if you don't want to hear about this, turn it off or whatever. I don't like what the module does because the dragon cult is trying to raise Tiamat from hell, and they're using dragon masks, the chromatic dragon masks of all the different dragons to do that. How the module works is the players are chasing after these dragon masks to stop this rising, But the module, the way it's written, it snatches victory away from them every time they get close to it. So every time they get close to a mask, it just, DM fiat, take it away. No, sorry. It's either like a fake mask or it wasn't there or whatever BS excuse they have in the module. That will just frustrate your players to no end. Don't create stories like that. I let my players get the stuff. They're way smarter than I am, so they're always outsmarting me. But if they have a great plan, if they role play well, if they fight well, let them get their victory. It's rare when you want to snatch something away like that. It can happen, and rarely. You should do it rarely, but you shouldn't do it every time like the module says. There are 5 masks, and there's like a horn that you're supposed to snatch away too. So like all this stuff you just keep taking away from them. They don't get it. They keep going on these quests to get this stuff. I don't want to play in a game like that. I don't want to play in a game where it's pre-decided. If they kill a boss, I let them kill the boss. There's always another boss. Let them kill the boss. There's always more minions. There's always, another lieutenant or another boss. Let them, as long as it's not the main boss, let them kill as many bosses as they can. That gives them a sense of accomplishment. And I've had it where minor bosses have escaped and become a thorn in their side. Like I had through half the campaign, this minor boss that was supposed to die just become their major enemy and like chase them all around, and it's become a great plot point. And it turned out that one of the players actually killed him, and he's a warlock with a demon patron, and the demon patron granted this boon of changing that thing to this white that protects him, right? So that's really, really cool. That became a cool story element that wasn't anywhere in the module. So a lot of modules can be railroady, but I'm going to talk about the Quest Givers modules. Like Gareth and I are both game masters, and we write the modules how we want them to be, like our DM notes, right? I'll take a module and write all over it and mark up stuff, and it's just blocks of text. I'll break it down and write all over it. So we try to write the Quest Givers modules like we would our DM notes. And we try to, break it down the same way, but we also use plot points. So instead of like, oh, you got to go here and here and here, you kind of decide what order, whether you want to use them or not, and that kind of thing. Now, there are certain kind of major plot points that bring everything together, but for the most part, it's pretty much what the players decide to do, and that's the style of play we like, and that's kind of what we push in our modules. But anyway, let's talk about how do you kind of recover from this? Okay, I talked about you're essentially God, right? Just change it to fit what's left, what happened. Okay, if the players escaped but they broke the story, change the story to fit make it a new story, because they'll never know. They will never know that you changed the story. They'll just think it was just going on the way it was. I've done this numerous times. The players will change something and I will change the story to fit what they've done. And that brings to another point. Like what I do is like, I don't prep too far in advance. Like I only prep for the next game. Because if you start prepping too far in advance, you get caught up on getting the story to that point, and you're more resistant to the player changes to the story than if you just are going for the next session. I try to just plan for the next session, even with pre-bought modules, because I change a lot of the modules. I usually don't run right out of the book. I change like 50 to 25% of a module when I get it, because it's just not right for my group and that kind of thing. And like I said, with the Quest Givers modules, it's all kind of plot points, so it's more fluid in what you can do with it. You guys also know me as a crafting DM, so a lot of times I get questions like, well, if with the player agency and you're not making them follow a railroad, how do you like plan crafting and stuff for the next adventure? Well, here's how you can do it. This is a great trick. Okay, now the players will get information. Maybe they finish an adventure and they'll get information about where to go next. Give them information and let them decide what they want to do. Maybe there's half a dozen options to do, and they're like, oh, well, let's go to the Caves of Chaos, right? And so when you ask them where they want to go next and they say Caves of Chaos, you know they're going to go to Caves of Chaos instead of they come to the next station. It's like, okay, where are you going to go? And they say Caves. It's like, oh my God, I had the village planned out. I didn't have the Caves of Chaos planned out, right? So that saves you from studying all this other, you don't have to worry about all the other material because they're going to a specific place. And as far as terrain goes, you can have that ready. So I always ask my players what they're going to do next, and that really helps me. But it can help you as a GM, DM too. You don't have to have terrain. It just helps you, know what you need to prep for next game. The third thing is, like, one of the most important things is, improv can be very tricky and hard. That's the hardest skill, I think, to learn as a game master, a DM. But you want to always be thinking about the repercussions of what the characters do. That way you can modify the story to fit the characters, not make the characters fit the story. Does that make sense? Because you want the characters to be the most important thing in the game, in the world. And if you try to make them fit your story, they're not going to engage like they are if you're fitting your story to them, right? Now, it doesn't mean you can't have plot points like we do in Quest Givers and that kind of thing, but you can modify those. You can fit them, to what the players want to do or what they're interested in, as opposed to, oh, well, you have to do this and you have to do it exactly this way. Get out of that mindset. Don't get stuck in that mindset of they have to do it your way, exactly this way, because you're going to be disappointed, because they're not going to do that. I've been playing with my players for like 10 years and they still freaking surprise me. It's like, you just can't, I mean, you can guess what they're going to do, but you can't totally anticipate the creativity of this group of people that you surrounded yourself with. You can't underestimate that. Go with it, okay? And I think there's one last thing I want to talk about. Games could explode, they can go off track and that kind of thing. And that is really to be expected. That's gonna happen. But you can also have kind of a dickish player, right? That likes to ruin your story, that likes to throw things off track. And that's pretty easy to spot quickly. You want the people you play with regularly to be someone you would want to hang out with, because if it's someone you would want to hang out with, it's someone you probably want to play with. Right? I'm not saying you can't play with other people, but there are bad players. And some players just live for breaking a game or going off track and that kind of thing. And that's different. That's totally different from just the players bungling something or just not getting it or whatever. I mean, that's going to happen. But if you get a bad player, or if you get a player who's intentionally trying to break your game, that's a whole nother issue right there. I'm not going to go into that in this video, but be aware of that. That can happen. And if you have a player like that, that's a toxic player, and you probably need to get rid of that player. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found these things useful. Make sure to check out questgivers.com, because we got lots of great materials for game masters up there. And I am running one right now. I've started running the whole campaign for another group right now, and they are just loving it. And we have so much fun, so much fun. So Gareth and I want you to have as much fun as we do running these modules, because Gareth is running them too. So we're having a blast running them. So check them out if you want a story-driven game with interesting characters, weird monsters that follow the story and not the story follow the monsters. Check out questgivers.com for some really cool materials. See you guys next time.